It's Mickey TV. And this is part two of my review of Super Bowl 52 in the NFL. In my first video, excuse me there, I talked a little bit about the game and talked about my insight into what was going into the game and how it was kind of surprising, or I was trying to imply it was kind of surprising that the Eagles won this game considering the statistics on this game. And I talked about that, and then I talked about the offensive side of the ball on the statistics in that regard as well, on the players on both sides of the ball, on New England's and Philadelphia's side of the ball. And it was kind of interesting to look at these numbers, and it was just a huge offensive game in the game at Super Bowl 52. So if there's anything that this Super Bowl brought, it was a pretty high-scoring game and very entertaining game. Even though the Eagles led, like I said, led through most of the game, and there was one time late in the fourth quarter that the Patriots took the lead, and then they immediately lost that lead. I believe on the following play from the Eagles, or the following drive, or it might be the second drive after that. Either way, the Patriots had plenty of time to catch up in this game, especially at the end of the fourth quarter. They could have, I mean, it came down to a Hail Mary pass, and it could have gone either way. It could have been like one of the greatest the tie-ups in a Super Bowl history if that catch was made on the Hail Mary and then the two-point conversion was made to go into overtime. But that didn't happen. I would have loved to see the Super Bowl go into overtime. That hasn't happened in the history of Super Bowl history. And even though I was working at the stadium and I would have had to stay later, it would have been history in the making to see the Super Bowl in overtime. But that didn't happen. So, like I said before in my last video, I'm going to talk about the defensive side of things. Not too much to talk about here. Like I said, there wasn't a lot of defense in this game, so there wasn't anything too extraordinary of the defensive side of the ball, but I think I should at least talk about at least what I think is the top three defensive players on each side of the ball in this game. For the New England Patriots, they had number 23 Patrick Churg. He led the game in 10 tackles, 7 solo. I believe he's a secondary player. Not a surprise there if this was as pass happy as the stats say, and I didn't get a chance to see the game, but watching it, I mean, this was just so pass happy. It's not a surprise to see a secondary player have the lead in tackles, and this guy, he had a pretty busy game on the Super Bowl 52. The other, I think all three of these defensive players on New England are like defensive backs. So the second one, number 32, Devin McCourty, he had 7 tackles, 6 solo, and 2 passes defended. That's not too bad considering what he had to wrestle with in the game. And then number 30, Duron Harmon, he had 5 tackles, 3 solo, 1 pass defended with an interception. So those were the top 3 players I think was in this game. They had a busy day considering there wasn't much of anything for sacks. I mean, I looked at the sacks, and I think maybe each team had 1 sack, maybe only 1 in the game. I know the Eagles got 1 sack for sure, but I can't remember if there was a sack on the Patriots side, and if there was, it was only maybe 1. So I found that kind of interesting. I mean, when that happens in the game, when your defensive front isn't doing too good, you begin to wonder. Well, you wonder 2 things. Either was the offensive lines on both sides really that good, or were the referees not really calling that many offensive holding penalties, which you hear things that the referees kind of like are a little bit lenient on holding calls during the Super Bowl, which I find to be bullshit. I think referees should coach each game the same, or not coach. I think every referee should officiate each game equally. It doesn't matter if it's a Super Bowl or a regular season game or preseason game. Every game should be treated the same. You shouldn't like relax the rules if it's the Super Bowl, or make it even more strict if it's the Super Bowl. It's got to be the same standard. I would suspect it's a combination of really good offense, but I also suspect that, and based on the penalties I saw in this game, I suspect that it was just hard to get to the quarterback with the referees not calling holding plays. On the opposite end of the ball, I think the same situation happened. They had two defensive backs that I'm going to point out, and then a linebacker. Same situation, I'm sure. Number 31, Jalen Mills. He had 9 tackles, 6 solo, 2 passes defended. And then you have Corey Graham, number 24, 8 tackles and 5 solo. And then Philadelphia's number 55, Brandon Graham. Their linebacker had 2 tackles, 2 solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, 2 QB hits, and 1 forced fumble. So this guy, he probably harassed Tom Brady pretty good throughout this game. He had a crucial sack for a fumble that helped make things even extremely more difficult for the Patriots on this game. In the end result, I mean, I can't, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for the Patriots. They didn't play their best game, or maybe they did play their best game, but they weren't good enough to beat the Eagles. And the Patriots, in their AFC game, they barely beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. So either the Patriots are starting to fall, or the Jaguars and the Eagles are really good football teams. And I'll just tip my hat to the Eagles. They came in, they fought, and they churned this game out. They had the lead through most of the game, gave it up, but got it back pretty much right away. And, what can you say? Bill Belichick, I heard a lot of people saying that he didn't coach a great game, and he made some blunders on the sideline. In some people's opinion, he made some blunders on the sideline. There was a lot of head scratching to some of the play calling he made, and it was weird. It was weird. I mean, I know he's lost a couple other Super Bowls, and even in those Super Bowls, he's made some calls where you scratched your head and wondered what the heck he did. But sometimes this guy, he's willing to take risks, and once in a while he'll get burned. But what are you going to do? I mean, he's got 5 Super Bowl rings, though. I mean, 5 out of 8 Super Bowls you're in, and you got Super Bowl rings as a head coach. I mean, that's pretty good. Going over to the opposite end, this Doug Peterson. I don't know much about the Eagles head coach, but it looked like he coached a pretty good game. On the offensive side ball of things, I don't know how this guy does it. I don't know how he gets this type of offensive players. Even Wentz, their main quarterback that was out of the game because of injury. Wentz and Knowles, they don't. Is that the other guy quarterback's name? My apologies if I can't figure this. Foles, Nick Foles. I mean, there's nothing spectacular about these quarterbacks, but this coach can get some good play out of them. Maybe it's called steady play, and that's what this team does. Is that even though they're not as flashy as like the Patriots, but you know what? They get the job done, and they got it done good. Their defense is supposed to be good, and maybe they were good. Maybe they are really as good as people think they are. It's just against the Patriots, and then my theory about the referees. Maybe it was a little bit tougher to play a really good game when you're being held up at the line, and it was more of a pass-friendly game, which I don't really care for in the NFL. But that's another topic for another day. But anyways, that was it. I mean, time of possession, Patriots had 26 minutes. The Eagles had 34 minutes. So the Eagles had the edge on there. But overall, it was a good game. What can I say? The Eagles won. Wish it would have been the Patriots, but there's not much you can do about it. And I thought this was a really good Super Bowl overall. I think everybody got their money's worth. I'll talk to you guys later. Please comment, like, and subscribe if you like. Talk to you later. Bye.